Hello, everyone. Welcome to Course 5 Campus Live, second part of the conversation which David and I kickstarted about 2 weeks back. We are really glad to have you today and bring you another exciting and a topic which is near and dear to both of us. So, welcome to all of you and welcome, David.
Hey,
How
Denise,
are
how are
you?
you?
I'm good. How
Good.
about you?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
How does it feel for you to become a video artist with going live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and all the platforms?
I mean, just imagine all the conferences that we're going to go to and the private jet flights. It's just going to be, this is the beginning of something amazing.
Great. Did you take private jets? I don't remember me taking any private jet.
No, that's the future. The post-pandemic far future after we're YouTube stars.
I'm looking to book myself on a Mars ticket for sure. That is
Okay.
something if you talk about future. But nevertheless, I think today's topic is exciting, which is anti-fragility in marketing. And for the benefit for me as well, what do you mean by anti-fragility? Because it's a pretty big term. Where did it come from? Can you shed some light?
Yeah, so anti-fragility is, you're right, it's a big term. It's a really interesting term. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, um, and he had recently lost his job during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and he said he had read this book called Anti-Fragility, and he highly recommended it. So I respect his opinion. I picked it up, and I was really impressed. This book was written by Nassim Taleb in 2012. This is the gentleman who wrote the book The Black Swan, about
Mhm.
the kind of long tail events. It became very
Yep.
popular during the financial crisis in 2008 timeframe. He's an essayist, he's a statistician, he was an options trader, so a financial background, statistician, deep thinker, risk analyst. Um, his work is centered around problems around randomness and probability and uncertainty. And the anti-fragility concept that he introduced just really grabbed me. It was really interesting. The idea is that basically um, there's fragility, something that breaks easily, right? I think we're all familiar with that term. But there's not really a good term for the opposite of fragility, something that grows stronger when it encounters times of stress. And so he called that anti-fragility.
So, but he's a financial analyst, and he talks about financial markets and all of that. But today's topic is anti-fragility in marketing. How it applies to marketing as a domain or as a department within large enterprise.
Yeah, so Taleb might he might think that we're oversimplifying things. I think he's established the concept to serve his purposes in the broader world or in the world of finance or risk management. But I think I found that there's a number of applications to marketing. I think, and we'll get into some recommendations in a little bit. But uh, I think that anytime there's an organization or that we as individuals that we face scenarios of potential chaos or upheaval, there's this benefit to thinking about that situation as something that we can I guess use to our advantage. And
Mhm.
actually, I want to bring up a slide here. Um,
Okay.
if we could pull that up. So actually, the first one is just a picture of Nassim Taleb and a picture of the book with his website, Fooled by Randomness. So go check that out. But the other slide that I wanted to share here is it's the points of sale from sailing, and what I mean by this is this concept of having a mindset of strength despite trials or despite chaos that you might be encountering, whether it be in your work life or in your personal life. There's this quote that I like. It says, you can't change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And to me, that speaks to the idea that it doesn't matter what the situation might be around you, you can harness the power of what's going on around you for your own benefit.
That's impressive because we spoke about this 2 weeks ago, exactly about a topic where I referred to a quote where you can't control the outcome, but you can manage the process. So it
Right.
leads on to that similar premise of anti-fragility in many ways as well. But does anti-fragility mean you have to get stronger and not be fragile? Can you explain the difference between strength or strong being anti-fragile?
Well, there's a couple of examples that Taleb shares in his book that apply to that question. Apparently, there are some materials. So in material science, there's this carbon fiber-like material that under certain conditions actually gets stronger when it's introduced to stress. That instead of snapping or breaking like traditional steel might, this actually under the right conditions gets stronger. So that's kind of at a high level. There's another example that he shares in the book of exercising, and specifically using a treadmill. And anyone who's relying on treadmills during a lockdown or because of the weather, I don't want my remarks here to be misconstrued as being anti-treadmill. But basically, in a treadmill environment, you're consistently in kind of a stable, protected environment, and that doesn't really reflect what goes on in the real world. So if you are doing nothing but running on a treadmill, and then you go run a trail with a lot of rocks and uneven contours, there's a decent chance that your body hasn't, I guess, built up the muscular structure to be able to be resistant to the natural world. There's a benefit to having minor stresses available to a system or to a person. So in our treadmill trail example, if on the other hand you are consistently out running a trail or hiking a trail, your body, your leg, the muscles in your feet are going to strengthen because of the anomalies that they encounter. So I guess similarly, whether it's in a business context or in a marketing context, if we're consistently trying to create a perfectly clean, antiseptic kind of environment that doesn't have stresses, then we're not going to be able to thrive in the real world. So I guess to some extent, these trials that we encounter, we should be thankful for them because they do make us stronger.
So bringing it back to marketing,
Yeah.
and fitness is a very near and dear topic to me as well, but taking it away from fitness to marketing, looking at the last 9 months or 7 months, marketers and businesses have seen a lot. There's chaos all over. Now, if you want to apply the principles of anti-fragility in marketing, uh, let's talk a little bit more about that. How does it apply within the marketing context?
Yeah, I wrote an article that I posted to our blog a couple of weeks ago in September, and I got into that exact topic. So I came up with these thoughts. Some of them are mine, some of them are others. You probably gave me a few of these ideas. I came up with 5 suggestions as to how we can apply the principles of anti-fragility to marketing. So let's pull that slide up as well. So basically, the first one that I think I'd like to introduce here is the idea that chaos makes practice more realistic. And so similar to a trail run, marketing teams should act like they should have drills from time to time. They should maybe act like the stakes are higher from time to time. Obviously, if you're an e-commerce or a retail organization, if you're selling during Black Friday or other key periods of the year, whatever your geography, you can't wait until things get crazy to expect that everything is going to go perfectly for your organization. There's just so many moving parts in modern e-commerce, especially the marketing function. And so you need to have this practice throughout the year. And so there are a number of periods that might lead up to holiday, whether it's back to school or some other campaign that's traditional for your business. Make sure that you're looking, that you're really thriving on those, or looking at those as opportunities to grow and embrace the chaos, I guess. So that's the first one. The next one that came to mind for me is that it's useful and important to embrace a diversity of intelligence sources. So perhaps this is making sure that you're looking at both qualitative and quantitative results. If your team is only giving you positive results, maybe that is an indication that they're afraid to give you the not so positive results. Although, some doesn't mean that you have to be completely paranoid, but if you do believe that only the paranoid survive, then the reality of your environment is probably that you could grow more if you are incorporating other data sources, whether they be adjacent consumers or markets. Just make sure that you've got a diversity of intelligence sources, so you're not just focused on what's comfortable to look at. I think it's important to do postmortems on failures. And this is something that I actually took from a gentleman named Scott Fenstermaker, who shared in his post on anti-fragility and marketing that it can be really hard to talk about a lost client experience. So maybe this is a B2B use case where you work really hard to land a client and it doesn't go well. You're not successful. What you want to do is kind of ignore it, compartmentalize it, move on to the next one. But what Scott suggests, and what I really like, is this idea that you should get together with your team and review what you could have done differently. Why didn't it work out very well for you? And Scott says that these are excruciating but crucial, and that really resonated with me. And I think if you take the time to have those experiences, those hard conversations, you will become more, I guess, you'll become stronger because of that challenge. You'll become less fragile, so conversely, more anti-fragile.
No, and talking about failures is an art also, David, I would say, because in organizations, we say we embrace failures, but it's not just embracing, okay, you allow people to fail, but you need to also dissect the reasons of failure as a team, not as individuals. And often failures are unspoken conversations or thoughts which linger around, uh, and we don't really put focus. And I've seen many organizations not really talking about it. And in fact, if I just look at these three scenarios, in recent times, there have been organizations which have also burned their hands when they have shown anti-fragility as well, either through advertisement, messaging, or not messaging also, in many ways. So I think these 3 points, and the more you have, are very much relevant.
Yeah, I guess it's the team part that you mentioned is super important. It's important that as individuals we not feel like we are the cause of the failure, for example. But that and even though there might have been one particular decision that was responsible for not winning a client opportunity, it is a team sport, really, that we're in here, business. And so we shouldn't, I think that we'll find that we're all going to be less reluctant to have these difficult conversations if we view it as a team effort. So the next one is that, one way that in marketing we can demonstrate and build up anti-fragility would be to amplify our outreach to our top customers. So the example here might be, is actually one from my past life when I worked I led a team of retail analysts. We found that we had a small number of customers who represented a really significant portion of sales for us. So our top 10 customers were buying a huge amount of product for us. And initially, well, we found out that they were actually buying this product to ship overseas to places where we didn't have stores. And there was this sort of sense of well, this is something we should stop. And there's a variety of reasons for maybe going down that path, but I was more interested in the maybe we should embrace these guys kind of path. Once we understood who they were, should we partner with them? Should we make them official partners? Should we look at the geographies where they're selling as opportunities to expand our business? And by amplifying that outreach, I think something that might have been a weakness of having sales concentrated or having them go through a channel that was initially viewed as being suboptimal or one that we weren't interested in facilitating. I think that there was perhaps a more enlightened approach to take that customer's opinion or those top 10 customers and incorporate them into our business operations in some way.
Just a point of interruption for the audience who are listening in. If they have any questions or thoughts which they would like to share on this topic, or pose a question to David or me, we'd love to see those coming in either through the chat on LinkedIn, YouTube, or whichever platform that are watching on.
So yeah, I would definitely love to hear some questions. The last one that I put together in that article and that I'll share here is the same topic that we talked about last time we got together 2 weeks ago, Anis, which was the concept of scenario planning. And I think that there's a great strength that can come to a marketing organization when they get together and think through what are the possible scenarios that we might be facing in the future, and how might we best respond to those, and think a little bit or considerably outside the box. By having those types of experiences, your marketing organization will be much more ready to cope with or deal with what comes your way, especially when things come out of left field, because invariably what you plan for in those scenarios probably won't actually happen. But the fact that you've conceived of, and maybe back to that that first point about making practice more realistic, you can actually get used to the idea of thriving in chaotic scenarios. There's a movie that came out a long time ago, Crimson Tide, with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington. And the cool thing about Crimson Tide for me, or the scene that always sticks with me, is these drills that Gene Hackman, who was a demanding commander of the submarine, would make them go through, and that brought more strength to the crew in general, because they were used to these somewhat chaotic situations. So when it came to game time, they were ready for it.
There's an interesting question actually posed to us, David. Have you seen any examples of anti-fragility in marketing in use cases, whether it's to our customers or organizations? I do have some thoughts.
Please, I'll let you share.
Actually, this is something which I am seeing, and this is pre-pandemic, the current phase which we are all in, where companies have actually adopted agility in their mindset, or the agility in the thought process of either driving marketing initiatives or focused on embracing agility or agile thinking within whether it's the insights function, whether it's an analytics function. I have seen them really embracing anti-fragility during these pandemic days. That's just a broad piece, because agility and anti-fragility are kind of go hand in hand as well, because agility allows you to quickly react and act and change direction based on what you see in the market, or what you see competition doing, or what you see customers react to.
Yeah, it seems like right now is a perfect time to be talking about this, because of just the chaos that is surrounding us, and whether that chaos is financial or environmental or related to the pandemic. There's just so much going on right now, and I think part of the opportunity to thrive. And to the point, the question of examples from our clients, it's really interesting to see those that just are willing to invest despite what's going on around them. And I've been super encouraged by one client in particular who had, this was fairly early on in the pandemic, they basically had said they wanted to do a project with us. The pandemic came along and we were wondering, okay, are you still interested in this project? And I'm not at liberty to share the details, but they said, yeah, this is definitely something of interest. It will guide what we're thinking during the pandemic, but actually it will be even more instructive and useful afterward. So that was an example of one of needed to invest because they saw the point, and that was super encouraging.
Okay, so on the closing point on this, David, and I don't want this to be another webinar, which we are not intending to for sure. If you have to apply the concepts of how does data enable marketers to be anti-fragile, what will be your thoughts?
Yeah, so data is inherently, if you are willing to let it be so, it will direct you toward these points of anti-fragility. If, for example, you're on the other hand putting your thumb on the scale to ignore the data, to sort of, I guess, cook it a bit, then you're inherently being less. You're being more fragile in that scenario. When things get difficult, you're more likely to actually break in the moment. I think about one of my favorite topics when it comes to data is always the idea of governance and the importance of governance. And for me, governance is really about getting together and talking to each other and working through the rules of the game. It's sort of the unspoken, often unspoken rules of how you define key metrics, who has access, who's making decisions. It's tightly related to data quality and ensuring that you're having conversations around the quality of your data, and building into your systems, whether they be in your dashboards or your deeper analytical processes, this quality control or a check. I think many of us are familiar with the idea when building a spreadsheet, when you have a lot of rows that are summing to one row at the bottom. Sometimes you'll put a check in there to make sure that everything sums to zero or ties out the way it should. We should be doing similar kinds of things with our data processes.
Now, thank you, David. I think this has been an interesting conversation on anti-fragility and marketing. And thanks for sharing the thoughts. Wow.
Yeah, there's one more. There's one more image that I'd love to share here. And I really like this. This was from a website called The Rabbit Knows. And I think they captured Taleb's anti-fragility concept really nicely. So in these three images, in the first one, you imagine an object is thrown at a wall and the wall breaks. That's the demonstration of fragility, or maybe the object breaks. Resilience is not anti-fragility. We didn't really get into that, but that's an important distinction, that resilience, while often a positive attribute, is not the same thing as anti-fragility. It's in this case, it's the object bounces off the wall. Anti-fragility actually is when the object is thrown at the wall morphs and mutates and envelops the ball or the object and actually develops kind of a different form entirely. It lets itself be strengthened by the surrounding environment. And that really spoke to me. So my hope is that we can demonstrate similar kinds of, I guess, strength through chaos, not just resilience, in the various chaotic situations that we encounter, whether they be related to our being stuck in our homes, or financial insecurities, or organizational challenges, having to do so many meetings via Zoom instead of face-to-face. Let's look for the ways that these environmental factors strengthen us instead of letting them break us, or just think of it as we have to bear through this thing, white knuckle fashion. So that's kind of a good, for me anyway, a good representation of what we're trying to do here.
No, I think this image sums it up for everyone, and at least it sums up for me. No, I think this has been a great conversation. So thank you, and thanks to all our viewers who've taken time out from the special schedule. And I will just say, stay safe, be happy, and we will see you all soon on the live sessions of Postmortems. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.